Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be going over some file and directory management commands. This builds off of a previous video, so I'll include a link to that if you want to check it out. So in the Linux file system, we don't really have a concept of file extensions. We can include them in the name of the file to help us identify what type of file it is, but it's not necessary. So go ahead and check here. I have a test file set up. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the file command. So if I file random text.txt, we can see it's actually a text file, but not because of the extension, because the file command tries to identify a file based on the contents. So as another example, we can also run this command against one of our binaries. We'll run it against the bash binary. And we can see that it's an executable file. We get a little bit more information about it as well. And if we actually run this against a directory, it tells us it's a directory. And if we run it against ISO file, we can see that we get an ISO file. The previous video, I used the list command to get information about files and folders, and that is very helpful. But there's also some other ways we can get information. So we actually list out our directory. We can see that we get some information about permissions, the owner, that's the user, and then the group owner. We get some information about the size of the directory, as well as the last write time and the name of it. We run the stat command against it. We actually get a little bit more information. So in here we get some storage and disk related information. This is something I'm going to cover in a later video, so don't worry about that for now. We also get some information related to permissions and ownership. Again, something I'm going to cover in a future video. And then we also get some different timestamps here. And so just to point out here at the end that this -0500 is actually referring to the time zone. I'm in Eastern time, and right now we're running 5 hours behind UTC. So that's how you identify the actual time zone you're looking at in the timestamp. Then we have the access, and this is the last time the object was accessed. Modify is the last time the contents were changed. Change is actually either the contents or the attributes were changed. And the birth obviously is when it was created. So I'm just going to take a moment here and we're going to look at something interesting on another file here. So let's go ahead and stat out our other test file here. Make a change that is actually only going to affect the change field. So I'm going to actually change an attribute, and that's +I for immutable. So that means while this attribute's in effect, the file can't actually be changed. All right, and we'll test out again. And we can see now that our timestamp has actually updated only for their change field. So I'm actually going to remove that now. -I. I'm going to make a change to the file that will actually update the modified timestamp. So just to check here again, we see that we are still modified timestamp hasn't changed. So I'm going to go ahead and actually write some data to the file. And now both our change and modify timestamps have updated. File and stat are really useful commands for getting more information about files. Now we're going to move on to working with files and directories, doing copying, renaming, and moving. So go ahead and just jump into our test directory here. And we're going to make a copy of our test file. So And for that is CP for copy, the source item, and the name we want to copy it to. And there we go. We have testfile.txt.copy. Now, if we actually want to rename that, we can do that with the move command. So it's mv, our source item, and our destination item. Copy. And now we have testfile2.txt. Clear that up. And so, we want to create a directory. We can use the mkdir command and then the name of the directory we want to create. Dir1. Now we have my dir1. So if we actually want to move items and not rename them, we can use the move command followed by the items we want to move. We can do multiple here. Just make sure that you're careful to type in all the items you want to move, because if you don't, you could overwrite something unintentionally. So we want to move testfile1.txt, testfile2.txt into my dir1. And you can see now that testfile and testfile2.txt are in my dir1. Let's go ahead and demonstrate how to rename a directory. So move directory 1 over to test files. And we can also see command that our files are still intact. We've just renamed the directory. Now, if I wanted to make multiple directories, can't create because the parent doesn't exist here. So I can't create 3 because 2 doesn't exist. And I can't create 2 because 1 doesn't exist. So to get around that, we can actually use the p flag to create any directories in the path that don't exist. Now we have 1, 2, and 3. So now we're going to make a copy of our test files directory. Our source, our destination, file backups. You see that we get an error here. -r not specified, omitting directory test files. So we actually need to include this flag if we want to copy a directory and its content. See that we have our new directory and our copied files. Now I'm going to demonstrate a couple other flags that we can use with some of these commands. So go ahead and create a new file here. Echo string into a new file. And we have Bob's file. And we go ahead and copy that txt over to test files. And now we have bob.txt. Now if I were to copy this over again, actually overwriting the file, we don't actually get any indication that that's what's happening. So we can include the I flag when performing copy operations. That way we get a prompt and we can avoid unintentionally overwriting files. And just to mention here, anything that already exists in the destination we're copying to will be overwritten, and anything we're moving to in that destination will also be overwritten. So we always want to be careful when we're performing these operations. Now I'm going to go over some delete commands. So to start off, we're going to make a new directory. Let's call it empty. There's our empty directory, and use the rm command. That takes care of our directory. Now let's go ahead and remove one. You see we get an error because it's not empty. So we can actually delete this with the rm command. Now normally you would delete files this way. So and you can use the -r flag for recursive. And now everything within one is deleted. So also another command to be careful with, because everything within that directory will be deleted. So you want to make sure that you have your path completely correct before you hit enter. We can always include the -i flag here as well to prompt. So for example, our Bob file is -i. Go ahead and say yes. And there we go. Go ahead and clean up the rest of our files. Again, we have to use the R flag. Takes care of that. And then our final directory. And we'll get prompted for every item here. I'm going to wrap it up here. So if you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.